WiSP Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
Hello, and thank you for downloading the WiSP Sports Desk. This is Season 2, Episode 13 already. I'm Chris Stafford, and I'm joined by Nancy Gillen. Nancy, here we are back with another week of trying to find stories that don't just talk about the virus.
Yeah, it's obviously been kind of dominating every aspect of life at the moment, but I think we've got a few that kind of don't mention coronavirus.
Yeah, we do have, and all is well with you. You're on a roster, you were telling me before, so you have some time off and then you're back at work for a few days, so that's working out for you because you're all inside of the games.biz, of course. You're all there working from home right now to keep going, bring us the news.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're the office has been closed, but we're all still going, and luckily there's still quite a few stories to be writing about. So yeah, it's good that I've definitely got something to keep my time occupied with.
Yeah, as you said, you're finding stories that we're going to share in just a moment, but you're also keeping busy now. If anybody follows this show each week, they'll know that I've talked about bicycles and getting a bike because I got a new bike, and I'm very pleased with my new bike, and I'm very glad I got it just before all of this happened, this isolation happened. So I go out whenever I can on my bike, and I set you the challenge of finding a bicycle and going out. Now, so bring everybody up to date, because you told me before we came on air where you are with this bike, because it's a bit more fancy than mine.
Yeah, so there is a BMX in my parents' house, so they've got it in the shed, and it's been there for quite a few years. So I have got that out this week because it's been nice weather here, but it just seems a bit broken. I've been trying to ride it and it keeps kind of getting jammed, so I'm gonna have to, that's becoming a project to do in lockdown, and hopefully I'll be able to ride it properly soon.
Good, fancy BMX bike. So just to tell us what the countryside is like. You're in Pottersbar, which is Hertfordshire. For those who don't know England, it's just north of London, just outside London. What is the kind of countryside that you'd be riding your BMX bike in? Like, is it hilly?
Well, I'd probably go to, at the bottom of our road, we've got a golf course, which before all this anyway was when it went bust, so it's just been kind of like left. So yeah, when we were younger, we went, used to kind of, that's where we would ride our bikes, because there's kind of like a dirt track, like you've got the woods, and like it goes on like a hill and it's kind of quite uneven, and then also the golf course itself is quite hilly, some quite big hills to ride down as well. So I'd probably, once it's properly ready, I'd probably go there, because it's literally just at the bottom of the road, and really fun to ride bikes on. Yeah,
they're perfect for a BMX bike, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the dirt track bit, we used to ride down that a lot. I know a few times people would just like hit us like a stick or kind of a hole in the track, and then we'd go over the handlebars. But we were kids, so it was all fine.
Yeah, all good fun here. Well, mine's in a hybrid, so I can go off road, but I haven't got too ambitious yet. I'm still getting fitter every time I go out on it, so it's going to be slowly. The weather's getting nicer here in Virginia, and as it is with you. So I think people should be getting fitter if they can go out and they can exercise. Yeah, take advantage of doing something maybe you haven't had time to before.
Yeah, I think as well, there's opportunity to do things daily. Like before, I think I did go to the gym and stuff, but it was maybe 2 or 3 times a week. But now I'm trying to kind of do a little bit of exercise every day. So technically, that should make me fitter than before. So maybe there'd be a benefit to all of this.
And actually, I've got the chance to kick a soccer ball, which I haven't done for years. And I miss that. I really miss that, hitting a ball, kicking a ball or something. And when my neighbors there are 3 girls, and the middle one, Caroline, who's 13, she just wants somebody to kick a ball with. That's not one of her siblings, because I think there's a bit of sibling rivalry there. So she's happy to go with someone else and kick a ball. So we've been doing that, which is great fun. We just go in the parking lot at the back of the houses, and and kick a ball back and forth. So that's a nice diversion, and again, something I haven't done for a while. So yeah, just take advantage of that. Of course, with the kicking a ball back and forth, we are abiding by the rules and keeping our social distance.
Yeah, it's always quite a good way of making sure you do. If you make sure you're passing at least 2 meters away, then you're killing two birds with one stone there.
Yes, well, it's more than that. It's it's plenty of distance, so it's a good little exercise for Caroline for accuracy. Just learning some basic skills of soccer. Not that I'm a soccer coach. Don't get me wrong here. I'm not a soccer coach, but just the basics. So that's a bit of fun too. And anyway, if you have any pictures of you doing sport, we would love to see them. You can post them on our Facebook page at WiSP Sports, and don't forget to follow and share on our social media at WiSP Sports too. And we would also always love to hear from you if you listen to the show, and if you have any stories you think we should be covering. Just drop us a line to info@wispsports.com or post them on our social media at WiSP Sports. And don't forget Nancy's at Nancy_Gillen on Twitter, and we'll remind you at the end of the show as well. So let's get down to the business of the week. Then we've got a few stories, as we said, which are not direct, they're kind of indirectly coronavirus related, aren't they? The first story is about the athlete age limits that's going to be relaxed following the rescheduling of the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games, Nancy.
Yeah, so as we know now, the Games are going to be postponed till 2021, and there was quite a lot of questions, I think, with certain things about kind of qualification. And then, some sports have an athlete's age limit. So if you think of the men's football tournament, all players are required to be under the age of 23, with a few I think there's 3 exceptions per team, but the majority of the team needs to be under the age of 23. So they've changed the age limit. They're going to relax it for sports like that. So athletes that were going to compete this summer and maybe then go over their age limit will then still be able to compete, which I think is fair enough. I don't think there's going to be anyone criticising that, because it's, this is such an unprecedented event, and you can't have, it'd be a bit unfair to have people missing out on the Olympics just because of something like that.
Oh, totally agree. But that's for where the men's football team is that, or the tournaments. Does that apply to the women as well?
No, the women is all ages. I think the idea behind it is, in the men's football calendar, it's quite congested, and I don't think people place as much value on the Olympic competition in the men's football world, because there's just so many other events. So it's more used as kind of a tournament to develop players and kind of give them an international kind of like taste of playing football at a really high level. While for the women's, it's kind of almost one of the oldest tournaments that women have been able to compete in and at the highest level, because the World Cup was kind of formed in like the 80s, 90s, and then women's football has been since kind of 2000s, I think. Not quite sure when it was added, but it's it's quite a prestigious tournament in the women's football calendar. So it's not really used as a development tournament. It means a lot to a lot of the players and countries. So yeah, that's all ages for the women's football tournament.
Okay, so that hasn't changed then, because when I read that I thought, oh, that this has changed. But it's certain sports, but including the men's football. But so there are other sports that come under this, under 23.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, because the article, it doesn't say, and I'm not quite sure. I think international federations are going to have to clarify it. I think there might be, I don't know if maybe certain national Olympic committees maybe have an age limit for their athletes, because at the moment the men's football tournament is the only one I can think that has a set rule. So I don't know if maybe some national Olympic committees have rules, for certain sports. But I think the IOC said there's going to be a bit of clarity about that. But there's a lot of kind of rules that are being relaxed because of what's happened. So yeah, that's kind of just another one that has.
Okay, all right. That threw me through a loop a bit when I thought women under 23 on the soccer teams. All right, moving on to Japan. Now, Japan, I think was it today or yesterday, announced a state of emergency in the country. And today on Inside the Games, there is an article relating to their Olympic training bases now that they have been closed, which is no surprise in a way. But this is all new. You would have thought all of those training camps and bases would have been closed down anyway, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and it's quite interesting when you look at the whole timeline of what how this is kind of unfolded, because we started writing about coronavirus affecting sport quite early, the start of January. So I've kind of been following and tracking how each country has kind of been impacted by it for quite a while. And Japan actually were impacted by it straight away. They were there was a point, obviously they had that cruise ship, the Diamond Princess, that was docked off Japan, but they had a fair few cases in the country in kind of January. And for whatever reason, I think they've managed to deal with it quite well, and have fallen behind, obviously, kind of Europe and America now. But it seems to have kind of resurged in the past couple of weeks. And there is kind of a theory, or kind of, people saying that's a bit odd, that while the Olympics were happening, while they were saying it was going to happen this summer, that cases were quite low. And then as soon as they've postponed the Olympics, cases are starting to rocket, and now they've gone into lockdown, and now they're shutting the Olympic training facilities. And it's kind of, were they potentially maybe downplaying how much coronavirus had affected the country in an attempt to keep the Olympics this summer? I personally don't really know much about it, so I wouldn't really want to speculate, but I think some people are kind of suggesting that. But regardless, when you see that they are now in lockdown and that training facilities are shut, it does kind of seem, if the Olympics were still going ahead at this point, it would be nearly impossible. Like, you can completely understand it's becoming like so much more understandable every single day as we get nearer to the original dates for the Olympics, why it was postponed. Because, athletes in the host country can't even train at the moment.
But I did see that they're scheduling to reopen the National Training Centre on May 6th, which is just under a month away. So that seems pretty quick. While they're closing the training bases, they're going to open the National Training Centre again in just over 3 weeks. So I wonder if they may have to rethink that. I mean, it's like a lot of training centres, especially national team training centres, as well as everything down to your local gym. I think that's going to be a regional decision too, but I would have thought it'd be hard to put a date on that, just like it's hard to put a date on when competitions will resume in any sport, in any country.
Yeah, I think it's surely got to be a provisional date, and they'll probably relook at it, unless they're, for whatever reason, kind of expecting to get through it in 3 weeks. But I think kind of not many other countries has managed to do that. So I think that will be pushed back later.
Well, also, the story came out today on Inside the Games that the World Athletics Championships is now going to be moved to July 2022. That's going to be in the States, here in Oregon. That's pushing it far enough back, isn't it? I mean, because the world, like so many sports, everything else is impacted around them, like the European Championships, the Commonwealth Games. There's just so many other events that are impacted that are leading up the qualifications, and they are the lead up to major championships. So that those world championships are the ultimate pivotal goal, aren't they? So did you know how this came about, and what the story is behind this changing the date to that far ahead?
Yeah, I think the idea was that I don't think it was going to directly clash with the Olympics, but because it would have taken place in the same summer, probably athletes would have to choose either the Olympics or the World Athletics Championships. And I don't think the athletes wanted that, and I don't think World Athletics wanted that either. So they've moved to 2022. I think the new dates are July the 15th to the 24th of 2022. But like you said, even though they've moved to that summer is still incredibly congested. So you'll have the World Athletics Championships finish on the 24th of July, and then the Commonwealth Games will start in Birmingham in the United Kingdom on July the 27th, so just 3 days later, finishing on August the 7th. And then another 3 days later, the European Athletics Championships will start in Munich in Germany. So you've got 3 back-to-back. Say if you're a European Commonwealth country, you've potentially got 3 massive competitions in a row, which is, it's impossible. The athletes are going to have to choose. It's even questionable whether people will be able to do the World Championships and go on to the Commonwealth Games. Like, I think that is potentially way too taxing. So it's, you're going to, I think, start seeing athletes choose kind of what is more important to them.
Or that the governing bodies make those selections in a very different way, that there are then 3 squads here instead of, one bigger squad. Maybe some of the same from the World Athletics Championships will be able to compete at the European Championships, because as they finish on the 24th of July, and they've got a little bit longer before the Europeans start on August 11th. But it's really nothing of a break in terms of their normal roster of international events. So maybe this is an opportunity to select more teams and give more athletes that kind of international competition at that level, international exposure. I mean, that might be the way they have to go, because not all of the athletes could do all of those 3 events back to back.
No, and like you said, it could be a chance to have like a development squad, or kind of develop athletes that maybe wouldn't be quite there, but because of this, they now have a chance to kind of compete. I think that is definitely what they're going to have to do, because it's just impossible, I think, to do all 3. It'd be obviously great for us as sports fans to watch it, but that's going to be a crazy 6 weeks of sport. Gonna be crazy.
Now, you've got other news of a sports leadership workshop, a women's sports leadership workshop, I should say. But VASANOC is going to hold a brand new one. Tell us about that.
So they've already held it already, and it's their first women's sport leadership workshop. So I think this was held last month because it was to mark International Women's Day. So I think the news is a little late, but it's kind of only just filtered out. It just sounds kind of really good and inspiring. So there were 29 women from 13 sport federations, and kind of female leaders in sports were invited to talk to them and kind of discuss their achievements. And the theme was Empowered Women, Empower Women. It sounds really positive, and kind of maybe an area of the world where I'm sure, they do have kind of things that make sure that there's gender equality and so on, but you don't hear a lot about it. So that's just quite a nice story, really. Yeah,
explain to everybody where that is in the world, though.
That's in Oceania, so I think that's a really tiny. I think it's an island. My geography knowledge is not the best, but it's a Pacific island, so obviously kind of near Australia and New Zealand. But I've been to Fiji myself, which is tiny, and I think this is even smaller. So it's kind of really, really small island.
Yeah, very, very small island, and I think Australia and New Zealand would be the closest significant friends. Australia will be, they're just north of Auckland and north of New Zealand, right, and east of Australia.
Yeah. Right.
But Oceania is a big area, right?
Yeah, it's massive, and the thing that surprised me when I went to Fiji was that it's actually made up of something like 200 islands. So there is kind of a lot to it, but it's just quite small and really, really remote. So obviously quite hard to get to. I think Fiji is one of the easiest countries to get to in that area, but you can't really get any direct flights, and then you still have to fly either from Australia or New Zealand. And it is kind of the remoteness of it, I think, where they struggle with stuff like sports development, because they don't really have a lot of funding or facilities. So but workshops like that are kind of really good to kind of inspire people, and it's good that even places that are remote are not being forgotten about.
Yes, I mean, particularly those remote nations, which otherwise, maybe wouldn't have such a loud voice on the world stage. They are able to do that locally and empower women, as you say. It's all about solidarity and empowering women. So good for them. Good for them. Now we've got another story about, well, a woman rising to the fore, and it's out of South African women's cricket. There's a new role there for the former all-rounder Dinesha Devnarine, and that's a nice story. She's going to be part of the first full-time women's under-19 and national academy in South Africa.
Yeah, and I think that is a nice story because she's been a player herself. She's had quite a lot of international appearances and played T20 as well. And obviously, when you think of South Africa, that's, they're a real powerhouse in cricket. I think it's just quite inspiring. Obviously, she's going to be coach for the women's under-19 team. When you've got a coach and they've been there and done that and kind of, managed to be a successful sportswoman themselves, then obviously she can share her experiences. And I think that's just a really good appointment. And good news. I think the Cricket South Africa chief executive said great news for the growth of women's cricket in South Africa. So hopefully that should be successful there.
They seem to have the right approach there. I did read a quote. It says part of empowering women within cricket is not only managing the player pipeline, but by elevating female coaching staff who will produce players that can perform at the highest level. So they have a good attitude there. And as you said, they are a powerhouse. You can never take it for granted when you're playing South Africa, as all the Commonwealth nations have found out, haven't they? I mean, they really do have such a pool of good players, much like India and Pakistan, though, too.
Mm. Yeah, and we suppose we saw in the T20 Women's World Cup, like India reaching the final as well, and it's just quite exciting. I think women's cricket, is very exciting at the moment.
It certainly is, and I think that final of the England versus India at Lord's will be in people's memories forever if you follow cricket. Oh my goodness, so how riveting was that? And it was 2 years ago now. It just seems forever ago.
Yeah, it does. It's literally another lifetime away at the moment.
Yeah, totally. Well, we'll look forward to those summers of cricket if you're a cricket fan here. Well, one final story before we end here. And now we've had conversations about the postponement of the Tokyo Olympics being rescheduled to 2021, and the impact that that's going to have on athletes, especially if they're aging out. We talked about the minimum ages there, or the age limits rather, in some sports. But those that are coming to the twilight of their career and would see this as their last Olympics, they're not very happy about it being pushed on another year. But you've got a positive reaction to the postponement.
That's from Katerina Stefanidi, and she won gold in the pole vault at the Rio Olympics 4 years ago now. But she was quite interesting because she was one of the first athletes to speak out about the fact that the Olympics hadn't been postponed yet. So probably about this time last month now, she kind of tweeted that the International Olympic Committee were putting athletes at risk, kind of saying, it's going to go ahead. And obviously athletes wanted to train but couldn't train without kind of putting themselves in danger. She was kind of one of the first to speak out about it. And obviously, as we know now, the Olympics have been postponed. So she kind of reacted to it, and it was overall positive. She said it was made a little late, but it could have been made even later. So I think, she's kind of saying, obviously it could have been better, but at least the decision has now been made. It's like you said, it's been quite a varied reaction. I think people are relieved, disappointed, and it's just trying to keep the motivation up, I think. There's a British athlete called Jasmine Sawyers, and she wrote about, on her Instagram, she wrote a post that was quite interesting because World Athletics have suspended kind of Olympic ranking qualifications until December. So no matter how many competitions take place until the end of the year, it's not really going to kind of contribute to Olympic qualification. And she's kind of said that was quite hard because she was kind of using competing like in autumn this year as her motivation to kind of get through the quarantine and get Olympic qualification. And now, you know, she's got to be thinking about January 2021, which is so far away. So yeah, I think it's for athletes, it's definitely now a question of kind of how to keep their motivation up and not get too despondent.
Totally, and we're seeing rescheduling all the time now of events, almost daily. Well, certainly daily, actually. Press releases from national federations around the world and national governing bodies talking about, you know, every level of the game being, so the competitions being rescheduled at local level and regional and national and international level. And that will continue, I'm sure, even when we're back into some resemblance of normality where competitions have reopened, and they're going to learn from this, right, and have to adjust the schedule. So there'll be more of that you can follow at InsideTheGames.biz with Nancy. Now, you've got a bit of time off. When are you back at work, Nancy?
So yeah, I've had a bit of time off. I'm back tomorrow, but then I'm working for 3 days and then I've got another 2 days off. So it's quite bitty at the moment, but yeah, I'm still kind of tweeting about stories and obviously keeping my eye on everything that's happening.
Super. All right. Well, we'll circle back as usual next week at the same time for more coverage of women's sports around the world. And of course, you can follow us in the meantime on social media and post your comments at WiSP Sports. And Nancy is on Twitter at Nancy_Gillen. In the meantime, it's a beautiful day in Virginia. Later on, I will be looking forward to a bike ride. But I guess you still got to oil that bike. So you're doing some gym work at home. Or do you run, Nancy?
I don't. Well, no, my knee's a bit dodgy, and I haven't quite got it back to being able to run properly yet. But kind of just doing a lot of YouTube workouts. I was saying earlier, I've been playing a bit of football in the garden with my brother, and then walking the dogs, of course, is quite, it's not the most intense form of exercise, but at least it's kind of, having a bit of a longer walk than normal. So. Yeah. Well,
enjoy the good weather, stay safe, and again, thanks everybody for listening, and you stay safe too. Don't forget to wash your hands, and remember to exercise a little bit every day. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks for listening.